one by one, the government continues to encroach on every part of our life. They can't leave us alone. And, of course, I guess there's no stronger area of encroachment than our Second Amendment rights. Well, I am pleased to introduce to you Mr. Ed Peruta, who is the director of Connecticut Carry, a great group out in Connecticut there, who in the wake of the Newtown massacre is fighting back against some egregious rules concerning certain weapons. And I saw Ed on Megyn Kelly's program the other night. I was so impressed with his story, his passion. And I think while the gun story that he was involved in California with great news in February is a fantastic thing, and where he's going with Connecticut, we want to cover that. Listen and apply these principles, ladies and gentlemen. Apply the principles that Ed will teach you and talk about to whatever kind of government tyranny you are experiencing, whether it's your business, whether it's your ability to burn a wood-burning stove, you name it, use these principles. Welcome, Ed. How you doing? Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Randy. How are you?
I'm great to talk with you. We talked a little bit yesterday when we chatted about your background. I'd like to just go over that and sort of talk about your experience with the San Diego issue in terms of the concealed carry, the favorable expansion of the Heller ruling from the Supreme Court out there by an appeals court, and how people in Southern California now and in San Diego can get a gun. And then we'll pivot over to the Connecticut issue. So go ahead and tell us a story about how you got involved in gun rights advocacy and the San Diego story.
All right, Randy, before I do that, I have a little bit that I'd like to say first, if you'll give me some liberty.
Please, go.
I'd like to thank News Talk 97.1 and your listeners for the interest and support in the various serious firearm issues here in Connecticut and across the country. I'd like to thank Fox and the Megyn Kelly Show for giving me the national exposure, but I also know that you can't explain everything in 3 or 4 minutes. There's a need for a national in-depth discussion on the issue of self-defense and the right to bear arms for self-defense. Hopefully, we'll be able to educate and provide valuable information to your audience. And I, in my 65 years, have often been called controversial because of what I say or what I do, and explain it like this. If controversy causes conversations that lead to solutions, then let's be as controversial as possible. And for the record, I am a newly minted, law-abiding Republican who believes in the rule of law. Now, let's get to San Diego. I live in a 40-foot country coach motorhome. I travel between Connecticut and California. I cross the Mississippi River, drive by the Arch, often stop and see family members in the St. Louis area, out at Mizzou, and in Ava, a small town in the southwestern corner of the state. I went to San Diego, and I had done my research. I had retired police officers, retired police chiefs, and current police chiefs ask me if I owned a firearm. I said, no, I do not. And they looked at me and they said, Ed, one door in and one door out while you're traveling and in remote areas of the country. I said, good idea, going to get one. I got a Connecticut permit, a Florida permit, and a Utah permit so that I could have reciprocal agreements and carry during my travels. I arrived in San Diego, and I am a resident of San Diego also. And I went down to the sheriff's department on the first interview, and they said, oh, don't bother putting in an application, and if you pay the fees, they're non-refundable, you're not going to get a permit. And as a legal investigator for attorney Rachel M. Baird in Torrington, Connecticut, who is a prominent firearms attorney here in Connecticut, I saw what was coming, and I'd done my homework. So I said, no, I'm going to put in the application, I'm going to pay the fees, and we'll sort this out later. I was denied. I went to an administrative appeal where I was denied, and the undersheriff made the statement, okay, you're denied, and your appeals are over. I took him into his office, and I looked at him. I said, where did you come from? I said, is there a federal court in this town? My appeals are long from over. So I retained a local attorney. I filed. There was a motion to dismiss. Judge Irma Gonzalez at the time rendered a denial on the motion to dismiss, and I believe it was the first court ruling that the Second Amendment extended outside the home. Chuck Michelle from the Michelle Associates in Long Beach came down through my attorney to discuss with me the NRA taking my case. I looked at Chuck Michelle. I said, "You're from the NRA?" He said, "Yes." I said, "You're the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You're going to pick up the cost beyond what I've already paid. Be my guest. I'm a good client. I'll do exactly as I'm asked." We went to court. There was a motion for summary judgment. The county won on the issue of I had the right to open carry unloaded, which fulfilled my Second Amendment right. I didn't agree with that because I don't think you should be carrying an unloaded firearm exposed. We appealed to the Ninth Circuit. During the period that the appeal was to be heard, the state of California, in their infinite wisdom, outlawed unloaded open carry, which closed the door to the only thing Irma Gonzalez denied me on. And the Ninth Circuit on February 13th, a 3-judge panel, 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat, ruled in my favor, and all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
So really, I am trying to be a good client, but I want everybody to know this. I did not file my lawsuit in behalf of everybody in California, San Diego, or the country. I filed that lawsuit because I, as an individual, needed to be able to defend myself and my family should evil raise its head in front of me or in back of me.
Well, and for the record, but I mean, the gravity of what happened out there was that, I mean, most people have said that really now extended the Heller decision in the Supreme Court. And yes, it was an appeals court, but it really it took away the ability of sheriff's departments and local jurisdictions to make ridiculously non-compliable rulings in order for you to get a concealed carry weapon, because that really takes the ability away functionally for all practical purposes. Okay, now fast forward to Connecticut. In the wake of the Newtown massacre, Connecticut legislature passed a 100-page bill which was just overreaching, and basically the long and short of it, and I don't want to run out of time, we're going to have to take a break here, and then we're only going to have 5 minutes on the other side, Ed, so I want to make sure we get to the kernel of this. To set the stage, though, the legislature said, look, you may have an AR-type gun of the type that was used in that massacre. I'm not going to use the guy's name that did the shooting. We're not going to honor him or do that. But if you have a registered gun that was a legal gun, now suddenly you have to re-register it, and that's where the crux of the matter comes in. And there are people on one side of the issue that have said, hey, let's ask for amnesty. And on the other side of the issue, and that's where you stand, no, there's a different way. So when we come back, we're going to talk with Ed Peruta, who is a true patriot, using the system to maintain constitutional rights, and now advocating a counterintuitive approach to Connecticut's overreaching AR re-registration law. When we come back, we'll hear the rest of the story from Ed. Stay with us, folks. 969-9797, 866-455-9797. We're back, and we're talking with Mr. Ed Peruta with Connecticut Carry, which is ctcarry.com, ctcarry.com. Make sure you log on. Read about their experience, read about their fighting back against government oppression of our Second Amendment rights, and also support them if you can. I'm sure that would be really appreciated by the folks there in Connecticut trying to maintain their Second Amendment rights. So, Ed, tell us real quickly what the law says that you're concerned about, what it means for legally for gun owners who legally possess AR type guns, and how you're fighting back. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank you for not using the name of the perpetrator back in December of 12. I will not give that individual any notoriety in the afterlife. I refuse to do that. But let me see if I can just bring your callers up to, or your viewers up to speed.
Yeah, because we only have 5 minutes.
We had an event, and every politician in Connecticut, not every politician, but the majority of politicians in Connecticut saw a devastating news tsunami as an opportunity to grab their political surfboards, surfs up, let's get whatever we want, and let's do it now. They enacted legislation by emergency certification without the proper public input. They put it all together in 100-plus pages. They threw it on the books, and nobody understood it then, and a lot of people don't understand it now. They wanted people to register their firearms by December 31st, 2013, and anyone who hadn't done it on January 1st or thereafter was a felon. And a felony means you can't possess firearms. They had data and projected a certain number would be registered. They were shocked that a certain number were not registered, and they don't know what to do with it. Last week, about a week ago, I was at a Northwest Connecticut sporting, a banquet. A lobbyist came up to me, congratulated me on California, and asked me their opinion on an amnesty program to allow those who hadn't registered to register. And he was shocked when I said, absolutely not. And I explained it. And then I came back and I talked to Rich Burgess at Connecticut Carry. I said, we have to do a press release. And I said, put my thoughts in quotation marks in case you want to distance yourself from them. I can't use one of the words or several of the words because they're the 730 words. But my comments are up at ctcarry.com. And I basically said, defecate or get off the pot.
Yeah.
The state doesn't have the testicles to enforce this because of the public reaction. You either enforce it and arrest people, possibly very prominent people living in the right zip codes in Connecticut, or you totally repeal it. And our Connecticut legislature only has until May 7th to either amend or repeal the 2013 legislation to take people out of felonious conduct status. And I just, no amnesty. You said you were going to arrest people for felonies. Well, get some backbone and go do it. And then suffer the public consequences of the public backlash from not just Connecticut. My appearance on Megyn Kelly and other radio programs has generated communications to Connecticut Carry from all over the country, phone calls and emails of support. We are a nonprofit 501(c)(4) or C4 organization. We give seminars. We put information out. If you want to know what's happening in Connecticut, you have to go to Connecticut Carry. Here's how it works. I'm a legal investigator for a firearms attorney. I see case after case come into the office. In the office, we now have a big picture about what's happening in Connecticut, where it's happening, and what they're doing. And they are literally looking to take people.
Well, Ed, let me ask you this. Do they have some record of who owns these guns so that they could, I mean, do they have a knowledge? Were these guns registered in some way? How would they know who to arrest?
Absolutely. I've made Freedom of Information requests in the past, and I've asked for their databases on a number of topics, but one of them was, I want all of your computer data information on every firearm known to be in private hands in the state of Connecticut. They sent me several Excel spreadsheets that Rich Burgess was able to put together at Connecticut Carry, where anybody in the state can punch the serial number in for their firearm and know whether the state knows they've got it. We've amassed a great deal of data that we've mined out of the state police in the state of Connecticut under the Freedom of Information Act, and I continue to do that on a regular basis together with Attorney Rachel Baird in Torrington, Connecticut.
Okay. So they do have the knowledge, and they could, if they wanted to, come in and take people whose guns prior to January 1st of last year were perfectly legally owned, and they could take those, then come in and arrest you. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, successful businessmen, teachers, pharmacists, lawyers, legal investigators, you name it, bakery owners, firefighters, to being taken off to the pokey, mug shots taken because they refused to essentially re-register their arms and surrender that knowledge to the government. And so here is what Ed is basically saying. It's civil disobedience. It's like, come and take me. Okay, it's like I'm gonna sit in the counter at Walgreens, 1950 whenever or 60 whenever. Go ahead and arrest me. And you'll see that kind of optic that the government officials will not tolerate for long. Ed Peruta, thanks for all you're doing. We appreciate you as a real model of true citizenship and getting there and getting it. And keep us informed as far as what's going on in the outcome, will you, my friend?
You're on my email list, and I'd like to thank all of your listeners for any support they can make to Connecticut Carry in Connecticut.
Will do. ctcarry.com. ctcarry.com. Thanks, Ed. Have a great weekend. All right, folks, we're going to